All right, everyone, welcome to another podcast. We got a great show for you. We have Ryan Corcoran. He's actually based in Massachusetts, like me, so he's right down the road from me. His company is Specialized Property Group. He started back in 2018 when he was 21 years old. So that is quite impressive. I'm actually very jealous. He started off in multifamily and he's transitioned to rehabbing. So he does a lot of rehabs throughout the year. So with that, Ryan, thank you so much for joining the podcast and welcome.
Yeah, Justin, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. Should be fun.
Awesome. So take us back a little bit. I always like getting people's background of where they came from and how they even got into real estate investing, because I think it helps
Yeah.
people that are not yet in real estate that want to be, make it feel like they can get into it. There's nothing special to us that got it started in real estate. We all came from different
Yeah.
backgrounds. So yeah, how did you get started? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started kind of, I guess, unique, but not really unique in some sense. So I graduated high school, went to college, was in a physical therapy route, and I thought I was going to be a PT. I ended up working in a emergency department during college, and I loved the medicine aspect of it. Justin, hold on one second. I got to do
Yeah,
one.
go for it.
All right, that should solve all that problem. All right, here we go. So yeah, traditional, but maybe not so much. So I was in college, started working in an emergency department, and kind of transitioned away from physical therapy into more medicine route. Applied to a bunch of medical schools, applied to a PA school, and I actually went to that PA school. While I was in school, I bought a duplex because number one, I was sick of living at my parents' house, and number two, I was like, well, what am I going to do when I'm out of school? Now I have to have a place to go. Um, so the reason I bought the duplex was because I had made about 15 offers on properties, before that one, and this one popped up on the market. I made an offer. I went under agreement with somebody else. Then I went back on the MLS, so I reached back out to them. Ended up getting it under contract, and I had no money at the time. I didn't know how I was going to afford this. But I got it under contract, and I reached out to my uncle who owned a construction company, and I was like, "Hey, Uncle Mike, can you teach me a thing or two here? I'm in a little bit of a bind, but I know it's a good deal." Long story short, he lent me 95% of what I needed to purchase that property, and then
Wow.
I put the remaining amount down, and then my parents actually lent me money to fix it up. Um, I thought I was going to move in, ended up just renting it out, made, five, 600 bucks a month while I was in PA school. Then I sold it just before I graduated. I made my year's salary on the sale. And I was like, something, there might be something to this. So from there, I just did it again. I bought a three family, bought it and sold it. Then I bought a 5 unit, 6 unit, a 24 unit, a 66 unit, and we just kept going.
Wow.
That was the start. So we accumulated a little over 200 units, pretty quickly. And two other partners at the time. And then I guess, we were talking about it before, the last couple of years, and we can dive into whatever you want to dive into, but the last couple of years I really stopped buying multis. I only a couple here and there. And we're focusing on doing a lot of flips now with
Okay.
with that environment.
That's amazing, man. Wow.
Yeah.
So did you do everything local or was it remote?
New Hampshire, Mass, and Rhode Island. So it's
Okay.
all driving distance.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, and
cool.
it still is. Like I don't really do anything, more than an hour and a half away from where we live here in Mass.
Right. All right. So, I mean, you got into it, you got that first two family, and then you started to scale from there. But let's get a little bit more into the details. Like, how did you start to scale? What did you look for? Because I'm sure, whether or not you felt like you understood exactly that two family was going to make you all that money, I think,
Hmm.
maybe you had some luck versus like knowing exactly what to look for. But as you're starting to scale and being like, okay, I want to build a business, take us through that path of like how you realize that, okay, now I need to find properties that can actually make me some money. Or on the rental side, what were you looking for? Were there certain areas that you were looking? Were there a certain number of units?
Yeah,
Yeah, take us through that
yeah.
process.
Yeah, so and I don't mean to generalize here, but I kind of live by like you don't really know what you know until you know about it, right? And so
Yeah.
I had bought that duplex because I just thought that, you know, that was the only thing you could like, okay, I'm gonna buy a multifamily, I'm gonna buy a two family, right? It's the entry level way to go. When I sold it and I made that money, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go buy another one. So I bought a three family, right? Almost the same size. I went up just a
Yep.
little bit. But I started getting around individuals who were doing things, bigger, differently. And actually, one of my partners, who I still partner with today on certain deals, he was like, "Dude, like the twos and threes are good, but like they're very entry level, especially if you're gonna hold them. If as soon as you have more units under a roof, call it 5 or 10 or even bigger, 20 or 30 under one roof, the economics of these properties start to look a
Hmm.
lot better." And so I was like, all right. So I dove into that a little bit, and then I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I don't know anything about that, and I'm not smart enough to analyze any of those properties myself. So I'm going to go out and find deals because that's what I'm good at, and I'm going to bring it to that guy. And so that's what I did. I got a 5 unit, and I was like, I negotiated with the guy, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I pulled him in. His name's Mike, and he was like, all right, dude, let's do it together. So we got under contract, and then I kind of learned from him, and I earned, I got 50% of the equity. I didn't have to bring any
Hmm.
money to the table. He did all the work, and I raised a little money to bring to the table to close the deal. But for finding the deal, I had whatever, $150,000 in equity, the day we bought it. And so I did that for a while until I learned enough where I could kind of branch off on my own. But I can't stress enough, like you really don't know something until you're around someone else who's doing it. And
Hmm.
then you're kind of like, oh, like let me look into that. And then another door open and another door open. And it just, it's been like that ever since for not just multifamily and any business endeavor. And so that's really the key for me when it came down to scaling. And so it was okay. It has to be 6 units and larger. After about that 5, I'm like, all right, nothing smaller than 6, and then it was nothing smaller than 8, and then nothing smaller than 10. And so, and we just that's really how we scaled, and we would, we'd raise the down payment from investors because I was getting these off market, below market value. I knew that if I raised capital to do this after we were done the project, we refinance, I could pull out the money, or we could sell it and pay them back at any
Hmm.
point in time if we needed to. So it was rather risk-free in my mind for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I think that's one of the smartest paths that new investors, especially not just new investors, but an investor that's getting into a asset class that they don't have experience with, is team up with somebody else that does have a lot of experience with it. You're going to learn so many different things that you would never have learned or have to learn it the hard way sometimes if you were to go in there by yourself. So I think that's really smart, especially when you scale to partner with somebody that's already been through that. So how did you find these deals off market? What were you doing?
yeah, so really I was doing direct mail at all, and that was the only thing I was doing back then. And I mean, I quite literally bought a printer, the paper, pens, envelopes, like, and I would sit there and handwrite them like
Yeah.
hours, man. Like, and I mean like hours. Like I have hand cramps like every single day. But like I saw it working. And
Yeah.
so, I may have only bought, call it 6 or 7 deals doing that, but they were big deals, right? And so like the way my mind was working, I'm like, okay, like if I can send like a couple thousand letters out a month and it takes me even 40 hours to do this and my hands falling off, but I get 150 grand in equity when I buy a property or, I get some cash flow, like it's totally worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's really how I started.
That's
I
awesome.
did that for a while. I mean, we still do direct mail now today, a little bit differently, but that's the only way I was doing it.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of strategies on, how to find, what lists we were, looking for and such. But yeah, direct mail was the way we went.
Yeah, dude, that's how I got started too. My
Yeah.
wife and I would be handwriting the letters. I think we would try to get like 500 a week, and that was the goal, but it worked really well. And with you doing multifamilies, were you just going after any multifamily over 6 units because there probably aren't a ton of them in the area, or were you being a little bit more niche than that?
So there aren't that many right up here in Mass, and
Yep.
so there's a lot of twos, threes, fours, but there's not that many eights, tens, 12s, 18
Hmm.
unit buildings around here. So I'm pretty sure I exhausted almost every single one of them, and just they were, it wasn't postcards, it wasn't yellow letters, nothing like that. It was literally like this white envelope with like handwritten
Yep.
on the envelope, like everything was super personal. I mean, I would even take it so far that like I would look up the owner, and if I saw that they had multiple properties or what town they lived in, like I could look up the LLC. I'd be like, hey, like, I was in that town last week, or like I have family that grew up, so I know the area, like something like that,
Hmm.
something super personal that,
Yeah.
I could, kind of break through, I guess you could say, versus somebody else. But yeah, that's what it took, back
Yeah.
then. So
Yep. Yeah. Those high value deals, I would always spend more time and be a little bit more personalized because I'm okay with spending a little bit more time and money to like reach out to them to get a call back because I know it's worth so much money.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's awesome. What areas were you looking in? Again, were you looking in when you started Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island, or did you start small and then found
Yeah.
out that you exhausted that area and then have to go larger?
I started in like very local, so Fitchburg, Leominster, Shirley, Air, like just like very local to where I lived. And then, as prices started to increase over here, I looked at New Hampshire and I'm like, okay, well, it's still super cheap to buy in New Hampshire. Um, so I ended up, going, we accumulated units in New Hampshire very quickly because it was just very affordable at the time
Hmm.
the rent was almost the same as here in some of the areas, but the prices were like nearly 50% a difference.
Yeah.
So like places like Laconia and, just north of Manchester, just outside of Concord, Pittsfield, New Hampshire, like, places like that where we could scoop 60, 70, sometimes 80,000 a door that are now 120, 130, 150 a door. Um, Air right now, or Air's been 150 a door for a long time, right? Or close to, right? And so
Hmm.
just, that's really why we branched into New Hampshire. Rhode Island, I moved to Rhode Island for a little bit and I got to know a lot of people in the area. I got to know a lot of the geography and where rentals were, prevalent and where they weren't. And so, during my 2-year stint of living there, I moved back to Mass now, but, I accumulated a couple while we were living in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Other than that, I
All right.
probably wouldn't have gone down to Rhode Island. But I'm happy I did because now, we flip a bunch of homes now. And so we do a lot in Rhode Island now from that aspect because of the relationships that we built. But
And you said you got financing for them. So are you getting like financing debt from banks or from
yep,
private lenders or a little bit of both? And how did
both.
you start to build your private lenders?
Yeah, so I mean, banks are fairly straightforward, right? You bring the deal, they look at your your bank roll, your net worth statement, and all that kind of stuff, and your experience, right? And so
Hmm.
I mean, I couldn't do it myself. That's why I had leveraged a partner. We got the loan together, and it was fine. But the private money is, everybody asks oh, it must be nice to like know your uncle. It's like, guys, like I look back and like. I've raised probably, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20 million, but I don't even know how much we've raised now over the course of the last, 8 years or so. But my uncle's lent me maybe 200, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a
Yeah,
very, very small percentage. Now,
right.
granted, it was the first one, but I always say like, just think of your inner network. Like everyone knows people who have money. If you're if you have integrity, you're an honest person, you do what you say you're going to do and you work hard and people see that. If you excel in something and you go into real estate and they're gonna think you're gonna excel, and so a lot of people want to pour into people like that. And so yeah, I'd always just say just be a good person, and when you find an opportunity, you're presenting an opportunity to somebody. If they say no, they say no, move on.
Right.
But you'd be surprised, like most people who have some money lying around and they trust you, they'll take a chance, and that's
Yeah.
that's kind of what happened at first. Um, and now, reputation has built up over time, so it's a lot easier now.
Yeah. Nice. That's great. And were you doing this as a debt or equity side for the private
Both,
lenders?
both.
Okay.
Just depends on the deal. If we had like a super, super discounted deal, we would just do 100% debt because I knew the cash flow would just pay the debt payment off, and then when we
Yeah. Right.
refinance it, it would be up, plentiful to pay back the investor. But when it was a good deal and like we weren't sure, like, okay, like is it gonna appraise at 125 or 120 a unit? Well, across 10 units, that's a lot. That's a big difference, right? And
Hmm.
so we would sometimes I'd still do this. We'll pull in equity partners and we'll say, we'll pay you 50% back, or we'll do some sort of tiered structure, or we'll just say, hey, you bring the money and we'll operate the entire deal. You get 50%, we get 50%, and we just kind
Got
of
it.
everything's deal specific.
And were you blending like private lenders and banks together in a deal, or were you
Yes,
only doing one or the other? Okay.
both.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, pretty classic. We would go get a 75% LTV from a bank, and then we'd get the
Yep.
25% from a private lender,
Yeah.
and then we would throw in some of our own when it was necessary. But again, I had no money. I literally had no money when I was starting, and so irresponsible, I don't think so, but it was more so like I'm just gonna do whatever I need to do to be successful. And like
Right.
I have never not paid somebody back. even, we've lost money on deals. Everyone has been paid back no matter what.
Hmm.
And so again, it just comes down to, do you do what you say you're going to do? It's
Yeah.
an investment opportunity. The risk is losing money, but is it worth, burning that bridge? No. So I just, I always make sure that, whoever invests with us is taken care of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest, absolutely the biggest thing. And so so you were buying multifamily units, you got up to 200 units, you said?
yeah.
And so when did that transition happen from buying multifamily to flipping, and why? Why did it transition?
Yeah. So like the multis would take 12, 18, 24 months to stabilize. And so, and I wasn't making much money in the interim.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
raising money
Hmm.
and now you're responsible for more money. And so like it was nothing but just like money going out. And then every time money came in, it would just go right back out to like
Yeah.
a repair or like just dude, something. And I'm like, great. Like I have a great net worth. I never thought I'd be in this position at whatever I was back then, 27, 28 years old. But I'm like how do people actually like make money? Like how do
Yeah.
and so I remember when I moved to Rhode Island, 4 or 5 years back, I got into this, and I've said this before on a podcast, so if someone listens, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I got into this circle of five other guys, CJ Moss, a couple other guys,
Yeah.
and it's a small mastermind. We still meet once a month, and we just went around in a circle, like, all right, what's everyone's goals for the year? And I said my goal of, I want to get to 300 units. Everyone's like, that's awesome. Like, this is crazy. Well, we went around the room, and everyone's like, all right, I make $1 million a month. I need to, get to X. I own a $20 million plumbing company last year. I need to get to 25 million. And my jaw just hit the floor, dude. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I make $0, like buying these
Yeah.
rentals, literally zero. Um, but we kind of poured into each other, and I'm like, I have all these leads, and they're like, dude, just flip them, wholesale them, like monetize everything, refer them out to agents. And so that really kind of built a totally different business for me. And so instead of just marketing to multis, we've been, over the last 4 years, we've been blasting to, absentee probates, pre-foreclosures, you name it. And, like a classic wholesale flipping company, really. And we'll do, close to 60 or 70 of them a year. We did 40 last year. We're on pace to do 80 this year. So
That's
average it out
amazing.
somewhere between
Wow.
there. Um, but I started that, because of the mastermind, but also, interest rates started to go up, 2021-ish. And so it was hard to get sellers to reason pricing,
Hmm.
debt had doubled. And so, I just couldn't get things to cash flow and pencil the way I could. And
Yeah.
again, I thought it was irresponsible to be raising money and using bank financing and buying these properties when interest rates were double and I didn't know what was going to happen with them. So I
Yeah.
kind of pumped the
Right.
brakes on that. Um, and yeah, so now again, we still buy some, like we just bought a 118 unit building in Pittsfield, New Hampshire. And it's great. And again, we raised money for that one, gave equity away, but really it's a tax, it's a tax deduction at this point.
Right.
That's kind of how I tailor it.
Yeah, so that's great. So you have like active investing, right? You're doing the flips, wholesales, and all that, but you
Yep.
also have the passive stuff with still buying really large multifamily units.
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
what does your marketing look like right now? Are you buying everything off market? Are you still doing direct mail? Have you added any other type of marketing approaches?
Yeah. So we still do direct mail. I would say direct mail, it's been kind of like the steady Eddie for me over the years. I've never done it to an extreme amount and I've never like stopped it. I'd say right now we're a little less than we have normally in the past. Um, Only because we have other marketing channels that are also doing well. And so like we're doing Google Ads, Facebook, direct outreach to, for example, like we'll pull probate and we'll pull pre-foreclosures and we'll call, text, email. Like we're just
Hmm.
really, really niche list, trying to get leads from that. And then we also buy from, agents and wholesalers. And so I don't have the need to, spend a ton of money on direct mail anymore. But I mean, we just locked up one, last night actually from direct mail. So it's like, it still works. It's still there.
Yeah,
We still use it. It's a different model now. I think now it's more, I want to stay hyper targeted and keep marketing as costs as low as we can. And so,
yeah.
yeah,
How big is your area now? So you're basically doing 6 deals a month, right? Now you're
pretty
on
much,
track to doing deals a
pretty
month.
much.
So to do that, like how big is your sphere of like people that you're going after? And even like, do you have a sense of like geographically how large that is?
So I like to, so whenever anybody asks, I'll do Southern New Hampshire. I'll do all of Massachusetts, like east of Worcester. So
Wow. Okay.
Worcester all the way to, P-Town, right? I mean, we have one
Yep.
in Centerville right now. So like all the way to the Cape Cod in Boston and North Shore and South Shore and, Bristol
Okay.
County and then Rhode Island. So I've got pretty much, call it 2.5 states that we're marketing to.
What's your team look like? Like, are you doing stuff remote? Do you have boots on the ground? Do you actually go to all the properties throughout the different states?
Okay, so good question. So I'm still like the brain and still doing the marketing, and I still go to appointments every now and then. I have one guy who only does appointments, so I guess you can call him acquisitions, but like he's not your typical acquisitions guy where he's getting paid a percent every time. And like it's more of like, hey man, like I'm not around. Can you make it to this one? Or hey, I'm going to this one. You want to make it to this? So almost like he's kind of buddying up with me, helping me out. He's also an agent, very skilled, smart kid. So there's us two. I have a transaction coordinator, a bookkeeper. Um, I do dispo, and then we have a project manager whenever we have flips. So there's like five of us. But again, I'm still like the
Yeah.
catalyst. Without me,
Dude,
there
that's
wouldn't be
incredible.
anything.
5 people and you're doing 80 deals this year.
Dude, I love it, honestly. And
Yeah.
it seems like a lot, but you got to remember that they're not all flips. And so like somebody will, like a wholesaler just brought us a deal in Quincy the other day, and I said, I have someone who's interested. Like, do you want, can I? So we just sold it to that kid, right? And then we partnered on it.
Yep.
And so like
Yep.
they're not all go to the property, take them down, project management. Like I would say half of them are flips. So really it's
Mhm.
only, three or four going each month. And then the rest are, assignments. So
Okay. So how many flips do you have going at once?
right
Um,
now we have 15 projects, but there's six on the MLS.
okay. And
And
so,
two
and
we
you have your one project manager is
so
managing all the
I have
properties?
I have one project manager who will run the
Yep.
projects where so okay, let me back up. So I have a GC who I really trust. And
Got
so
it.
when I have him, I don't need the PM to run
Cool.
that project.
Okay. That makes sense.
So he's got three projects right now.
Okay.
Leominster, Shirley, he's doing one of Marion. So he's like whenever I have a deal and I send it to him, he runs the whole thing. I don't
Yeah.
even have to go there. The deals where we have to outsource and find another GC that I have never
Hmm.
worked with or don't trust, then our PM will stay on
Okay.
and they'll source
Yep.
everything and they'll yeah.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. Okay. That's
yeah,
great. Man,
yeah.
what a great system
I,
that you
I
built
I
up.
like it because I don't have everybody in house, so I'm not responsible for everybody's salaries all the time. Like
Yep.
I've always leaned towards like how to be as lean as I possibly can,
Hmm.
even if that means me working more for now. I mean, at this point I don't mind. I enjoy it, so I don't mind working extra right now to make sure things stay super lean and we're super super profitable. And so that's always been my philosophy with business is that I'd rather remain at a 60% margin than drop down to 15 and hire
Yeah.
everything out. I don't know. I'm just at that stage. At some point, I'm sure I'm going to be like, all right, I'm sick of all this shit. Like
Yeah.
hire
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
out, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's great because I think there's a lot of, there's certain people kind of in the industry. It's like, oh, you got to automate your business and work less. Like that's the goal. But it's like, it might not be your goal. This is
yeah,
might be like what you're doing. You love doing it. And if it's staying lean and you're getting more money in your pocket because you're doing more work, that works perfect for you. If somebody else, they don't want to work as much, they have to hire more people, they can't be as profitable. That might
yeah.
be perfect for them, but that's great. That's awesome. I think I like your situation, especially because you're enjoying it, but it keeps you super nimble and your
Yeah,
profit is really
and
high.
and and dude, I think the bigger thing above all that is that like I just don't know like where I want to take life or business, right? Like I
Yep.
don't know, like I don't really want to build this huge wholesaling machine. I don't really want to flip 200 homes a year. Like so which direction do I go? I just don't know.
Yeah.
And like I don't want
Yeah.
to bring in employees and have them leave other jobs and like and then be like, I'm done. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So like
Yeah.
I'm very much of the like we're doing very well. Like I knock on wood, I'm making more money than I ever have. I have more freedom than I ever have. Like I'm very happy with my life. So why change it right now? Right. And so
Yeah.
tomorrow I might change my mind. Who knows? But like right now, that's currently where
Yeah.
I'm at. So
What do you think led to your ability to scale so quickly? Like was there a specific skill that you learned that you're like, there is no way we would have been able to do what we're doing today without this one skill that I have?
I'm very good when it comes to in-person sales with people. And so if I'm going to get an appointment for a property, and I don't close every one of them, but like if I go on an appointment, there's a really good chance that appointment's turning into some sort of contract or, or a referral or, we're going to buy it down the road, like in a follow-up, like something will come out of that appointment, even if it's a no right away. And I just continuously follow up with people nonstop. And I think this industry, like there's a big push on sales, but like and everyone's like, quick, get to the answer, get to the price and move on. If it's not, I'm not like that. I just spent an hour and 45 minutes in this lady's house today in Dorchester. Like I sat there and just like listened to her. She showed me her freaking house in Jamaica. And like
Yeah.
we ended up buying we're going to buy the deal because I spent all that time. And that's
Yeah. Right.
it's probably a 6-figure, deal. And so like, that's just the stuff that like, that's what it takes, we're humans. We buy from humans who, we like each other, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do business with people who like each other. And so I don't know, I enjoy that aspect still. So I really think that the reason I can do what I do is just because every time I get in front of a property owner, I know what to say, how to say it, and just like how to position myself to be of value to them. And in turn, it typically turns into a deal. So
Were you always good at that, or was that like learned over the years?
I I honestly, I've always been personable, right? I'm
Yeah.
always easy to talk to. People always tell me stuff for no reason, right? And it's just my personality. So I think that
Yeah.
quality, is enough. The actual sales skill is learned over time. But I don't think you need that to start. You just need to be good at like communicating and, just be able to help individuals when you're,
Yeah.
with them. So
Right. That's awesome, man. Ryan, that's pretty incredible from where you started at 21, buying
yeah.
your first multifamily just a place to live, scaling it up to 200 plus units, and now transitioning over to flipping and doing 80 deals this year. That's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good time. And I don't want to take this. This shouldn't be like a me show. It should really be. I have partners. I have friends and family, and I have teammates. So like again, I don't do this by myself whatsoever.
Yep.
So just want to
Yeah.
preface that no one does this alone. So
It's so true. There's not one person, like entrepreneur, business owner, anybody that does it by themselves. They need a good
yeah,
team around them. And for the great point that you made is like, I don't know. I mean, who knows if you'd be right here doing what you're doing today if it wasn't for that mastermind group. Just talking to other like-minded people that pushed you or gave you the ability to think about something differently,
yep,
because that helped you make that switch, which it
yeah.
sounds like it was an amazing switch for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I getting in again when I'm trying to not focus too broad here, but like getting around individuals who are doing things just so much further ahead of you. If you can find your way into those rooms, however you have to do it, doesn't even matter if you have to pay for it. Just get into like a circle like that, and you will be amazed at how quickly you adapt. It's kind of how human, it's how we're built, right?
Yeah.
If you're the average of, the 5 people you spend your time
Hmm.
with. Well, if you're the lowest in a group of 6 that are crushing it, like you're not going to show back up there and do the same thing you
Yeah.
had last time. Like you're gonna grow very quickly. And I think that's kind of what happened for
How did
me.
you find that group?
Oh
Or
man.
or
So,
any suggestions on how people can find a
yep.
group like that?
Yeah. So whatever you're doing, and this doesn't have to be real estate specific, there's always professionals in that scene. So for example, in real estate, you have attorneys, real estate agents, other investors. And so what I did was I had bought a house and I asked that attorney that I used, I said, hey, who are the best investors in this area? He gave me a list of people. I reached out to those investors and I said, hey guys, like I'm a deal finder. Like what can I, what are you looking for? And I would set up a coffee meeting with them. And I just went and I said to them, hey, who are the other investors you know? And so like it just kept like going and I just kept meeting more people and networking. And I eventually met one of those guys in the group. And they were like, hey, come on Monday night. It's just 5 of us and we're going to meet together. You're impressive with your units. Like let's
Yeah.
talk. And so yeah,
That's awesome.
got in. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Very
Yeah.
cool. All right, so we don't take up too much of your time, one last question I have for you is if you were to provide any advice to somebody getting started in real estate or even getting started in like direct to seller marketing, right? Because that's where you buy most of your properties, off market. What advice would you give to them?
Oh man. Um, Dude, good question. I don't think so. You can go and grab like an absentee list and just start mailing them or calling them or something along those lines. But I think what I would do is I would focus on like area? Like who like are you good at talking to people? Okay, then pick up the phone and call them. Are you not good at talking to people? Then maybe send them direct mail and let them call you because you know there's a little motivation behind it. I think all the channels work no matter what you decide to do. You just have to
Hmm.
go all in on it. And I think the most important thing is just picking one of them and just doing only that. Like don't
Yes. Yeah.
do all these other ones. Like if Google Ads is what you want to do, then get ready to spend money. But like you know that like you're going to get really good at Google Ads before you do anything else, great.
Yeah.
If direct mail is what you want to do, like perfect it until you're getting leads and deals from it.
Yes.
Then you can go do something else because as soon as you take your focus, especially if it's just you, if you take your focus off of something, it's going to die down. And then you're going to focus on that one. Then you're going to be like,
Yeah.
hey, why is mail not working anymore? Well, it's because you stopped focusing on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think people need to really stick to one thing and just make sure they can commit to it for at least 6 months
yeah,
and just focus on that over and over because they are going to improve. And marketing, direct mail, whatever, is all about consistency.
yeah,
And, just like you started with direct mail, you're still going with direct mail, added in some other
yeah.
areas of marketing, and you're killing it, man. You're killing it.
Yeah, it's
So,
also timing too, right? Like, I mean, I can't count. We've gone back and looked at like some of the deals we got from direct mail. Like, dude, some of these people have received 40 something letters from us
yes.
over the
Yeah.
last 40 letters. And they
It's
didn't call
amazing.
once to say take us off your list or nothing. Like, it's like they call back, oh, hey, I got your letter from a year ago. And I look back, I'm like, no, you got like 37 letters from us like over the
Yeah.
last 8 years. It's just crazy. So
Yeah. That's incredible,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. Like
Incredible.
they're still trickling like some of the multifamily ones that I was writing back, 4 or 5 years ago. Actually one of them right now it's closing in a week and a half. And the guy's like, yeah, I kept our conversation when you sent me that letter 3.5 years ago. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like this is absolutely crazy. That cost
Those
me
are the
zero
best.
dollars
I
like
love those
time.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, Ryan,
Yep.
thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Great insight. Congratulations on all your success.
Yeah,
And
man. Thank you.
yeah,
It's been
thank you
fun. I
so much.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Bye.